The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that they can't be hypnotized. Of course, that's if there is a devil or if you believe in such things. And before you continue to tune in, you should know why. Most people, unfortunately, don't think that they can be hypnotized. And most men have too much of an ego to listen long enough to understand that knowing that the fundamental way that we as humans learn and then being prepared for it is actually the strongest that you can be. See, one of the issues with why as men get older they start to fall apart, and then you have all this stuff like people say, oh, dad bods, and think that's cute and all this other stuff. It's not. And of course, you know, there are people out there who have all of these different movements where they're defending people who are grossly overweight and obese, and like I said, you know, the whole dad bod phenomenon is one of them. But it's not cute, and it's not okay. It's because it's not healthy. And some people might say, well, how do you know it's not healthy? Well, first of all, observation. When people aren't able to walk properly, they are not able to just do basic things in life that humans have built the structures of the world around them, and they aren't able to function in them, then that's not healthy. If you're making things more difficult for yourself and more dangerous for yourself, that's non-survival behavior, and it doesn't make any sense. To make it more difficult for you to bend over and pick things up, to make it more difficult for you to walk short distances or climb stairs, or to just move in and out of spaces in the modern day with cars, to get in and out of your car, to have a higher risk of twisting your ankle or tearing your meniscus or throwing out your back, raising and increasing the probability that you'll have injuries is unarguably or inarguably not sufficient for an optimal life. So, what does this have to do with brainwashing? Well, again, another thing that's inarguable is, you see, if people weren't detrimentally brainwashed or negatively, you know, mal-hypnotized. I've used the term before, M-A-L, mal, which means bad, like malnutrition, right? Because that's basically what it is. When a person eats food that's not healthy for them, that's malnutrition or bad nutrition. And so if people weren't mal-hypnotized or detrimentally hypnotized, weren't able to be brainwashed, then why would people literally actually be eating junk, like garbage, trash, throwaway chemicals? Why would men who want to claim to be alphas and want to claim to be dominant and have all this testosterone and machismo, right? Why would they poison themselves with drugs and alcohol on a consistent basis and become overweight and immobile and stiff and have all of these preventable diseases if they weren't being brainwashed to do so? And then comes in the ego that says, well, I can't be brainwashed, I can't be mind controlled, that's just what happens when you age. When in fact, it's not completely true. We are all subject to time. Time is a fundamental of physics, as in space-time. And this is what is known as chronological aging. Chronos being the god of time, right? Chrono meaning time. And throughout time, we are programmed, influenced, trained, conditioned and hypnotized. That's my acronym PITCH, pitch, because those things are equivalent. And throughout time, we are programmed, influenced, trained, conditioned, and hypnotized to have a certain type of psychological aging. And this psychological aging directly affects our biological aging, which I'm simply separating out to say that biological aging has to do more with biochemistry and nutrition and the energy production and ATP in the cells and things like that, the way that we use fuel. And I'm separating the category out, which, and a special case of biological aging, which is physiological aging, which manifests in how we move, your mobility, your joints, your muscles, and those things like that. And together, those things are directly influenced by psychological aging, how you've been programmed, influenced, trained, conditioned, and hypnotized to behave. And the behaviors are what you eat and how you move, right? Food and exercise. And back to the previous assertions that ego and people wanting to be tough guys, men wanting to think that, oh, nobody can control my mind, I'm in charge of everything, are the problem with that is that men, you're getting sucker punched because you're not prepared for something that actually exists, which is the fact that our minds are very suggestible to all the information in our environment. And this is clearly understood when you realize that school, a job, some sport that you decide to play, other activities, a game that you learn, that these are all forms of programming, influencing, training, conditioning, and hypnosis. Any kind of onboarding where you have to learn a new skill to then be able to execute tasks and behaviors. So think about this. You're learning something, a way that something goes, right? That will then enable you to do that thing. So you're taking things into your mind so that you can then act on them with your body. Like in the case of a new job, you learn how to use the cash register at work, or learn how to fill in the blank, whatever your task is. And a lot of times you can read about these things or just listen to them and you learn. And in that way, now you can do your task, do your job, whatever it is. And there's examples of this on and on and on, but it's very simple, right? Anything that you're learning to do, that you're indoctrinated to do, and then you can do it, that is the very definition of hypnosis. Hypnosis is anything that controls behavior, period. Anything meaning information, or even there's physical hypnosis of the mind. So you, for example, can get addicted to drugs and alcohol, and that controls your behavior in a way because you want more and more. Or, like me, you could be habituated to fitness, exercise, and meditation and other healthy habits that you're compelled to do. It's another physical hypnosis of the mind. And we all have this feature about us. But what has happened is that the practice of hypnosis has been so marginalized and mystified and turned into this fringe practice that people think is only for the stage in a parlor, like stage hypnotists, and where people are quacking like ducks and flapping like chickens and barking like dogs, and think that's only just a show, when really that whole charade of how hypnosis has been made to look like that is intentional, so that people don't realize that repetition and association, the things that are repeated to you and what you associate them with, usually through emotions and trust and authority, right? That is the fundamental basic units, repetition and association, of how hypnosis works, of how your behavior is controlled. You repeat something over and over again, and it's associated with whether it's good or bad, and sometimes your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference about things that are necessarily bad for you, because it becomes familiar with things, and familiarity seems safe, and safe indicates survival, even though that's not always the case. But that's the job of the subconscious mind that controls our behavior, to keep us safe, for us to survive. But it has mistaken familiarity, which has shares the same root of the word family, right? It has mistaken familiarity with safety and survival, and this is not true. And so, because people don't realize, because men specifically who have these egos and machismo, who want to feel like my mind can't be controlled, I'm strong, man, and all this other stuff like that, feel like they can't be hypnotized, because they don't understand that it's fundamentally the way that we learn everything. It's just that hypnosis is a name that has been given a special case to basically the research and development of the practice of psychology and human behavior, and how it really, really works. That's really what it is. Hypnosis is a clinical term. But it's no different than those other terms that I've created the acronym PITCH for, PITCH, to show that it's equivalent. Programming, influencing, training, conditioning in hypnosis. And I use the I, it could have easily been indoctrination, but I used influencing because it's also equivalent for our modern age in which we have social media and there are influencers, right? You see somebody doing something online, you relate to them, and then you go and buy whatever food or drink or clothing or whatever it is that they happen to be consuming. And it only takes a little bit of understanding to realize that this is how things work. And you would be able to, like me, apply hypnoanalysis, right? Understanding repetition and association, and then also the three hypnotic modalities being authority, doctrine, and internal experience, along with the two laws of hypnosis, repetition and association. You'll be able to hypnoanalyze and see the things in the world that are programming, influencing, training, conditioning, and hypnotizing you, and then acting accordingly to filter out, through awareness, those things that are not in your best interest. And in this case, we can simply continue to focus on the idea of nutrition, of what you're putting in your body. That you look at these things. And a simple example is, for example, I saw some potato chips the other day that had potatoes, avocado oil, and sea salt as their ingredients. Whereas if you look at the bags of some of the other stuff that I'm talking about that is basically poison, has about no less than 20 to 30 different ingredients on it. And you need a chemical dictionary to define them, or well, now you can go online and ask AI, which is a good idea. But you'll put that stuff into your body and not even think twice about it, and then you start getting older, and those chemicals are depositing themselves over time, chronologically, into your body and affecting your biology and your physiology, right? And so now you don't feel good, you can't sleep well, you're inflexible, you're stiff, you've got arthritis, you're fat and immobile and have no endurance and all this other stuff like that. So what do you want to do? Buy fancy clothes and shoes and makeup and lipo and surgery and all these other things that don't address the core problem, which is that you've been brainwashed to go against your best interest, which is healthy living. And that's the thing that we have to understand about programming, influencing, training, conditioning, and hypnosis.